Kristin Peterson here from Altered State Studios, making a video project here for StencilGirl. My first project is to pick out a book that I really like and then show you how to kind of fold in and use the StencilGirl products. I have to be honest, Jane Davies is probably one of my favorite artists to watch overall, and her book that I chose for today is called Abstract Painting, The Elements of Visual Language, and the book is fantastic. She does a really good job of kind of walking you through all of the steps. So there's a ton of reading on composition, visual weight. She talks about color, saturation, values, elements, mass, even talks about paper collage, that sort of thing. But one of the things that had kind of caught my eye when I was picking this book was her talk on pattern and really the use of patterns within what we create and basically kind of how I create. So that was one of the things that really had caught my eye. If you look at the stencils that I have personally, I tend to like the ones, I got a little bit of paint on this one so you can see it a little bit better, but I tend to like the stencils that are just shapes and that could be used for abstract. It's really for me about kind of mark making, but mark making as far as being able to easily use my stencils and put the marks into whatever I'm working on. Like I love this one just with the little circles. They're all different sizes and shapes. She talks about that in the book. So really when I'm picking out stencils for my own personal use, I am picking stencils that are just basically kind of shapes that I will be able to go back and really use in my art journals, or like I'm doing the 100-year project on my time cards, whatever I'm going to be working on. So let's get to the painting, huh? I have an art journal here, and I do have the pages gessoed. And one of the things that I think helps as far as my own personal work is to maybe kind of layer some of the stencil use. So I'm going to start actually with this big one. I really like that one in particular. I like the break, the little lines coming in to the circle in between. I'm actually going to use, this is a Payne's Gray. I really like Payne's Gray. It's not quite as dark as a black, so it's not quite so scary, but it's a really nice kind of a neutral dark, and will really blend well with almost anything. The other thing, the reason why I'm picking the Payne's Gray, like I said, so my pages are white, so I'm also kind of keeping in mind the contrast between my page and what I'm putting down. And I don't want to get other things on here, so I'm just going to put a little piece of paper underneath here just to make sure that I'm staying where I want to with my stencil, because I'm actually going to use a roller here. We'll see what we get. And maybe I just won't worry about it. So I'm actually going to start with that and maybe put another one off to the side here. Perfect. Again, some of what I'm doing is just getting some of my pattern and design down. Now I know in the book she kind of uses different colors and breaks it up by that. I am going to try to keep it kind of simple. and just put down a couple shapes to begin with, and then start by putting my color on top and kind of building layers up that way. I just found that, I mean, that's how I paint myself personally, and it's easier for me to work that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and dry this here so I don't get it too muddy, and then we'll keep working from there. Okay, so I got these dry. I've kind of had a little personal love relationship going on with my Rose Bright Red. This is just a Master's Touch paint that I get at Hobby Lobby, but I truly love this. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of this down onto my page here. The other thing I want to just make sure to mention too, so my journal pages are all gessoed, and I'll show you why here in just a moment. So when I gesso the pages, it kind of helps my paint sit on top and doesn't necessarily soak into the paper like it would if it weren't gessoed. One of the reasons why I do that is because I tend to paint really wet. So before this gets too dry, I'm actually going to spray this down here with water and kind of let this run and kind of do its own thing here. Now I do I like working this way. I like it to be able to tone my paper without having to actually paint the paper. I like the fact that that there'll be some variations of the pink without me having to actually manipulate it more than it already is. And you can see a little artifact here just from my gessoing, but I'm going to go ahead and dry this so we can keep working, and then we'll come back and start kind of layering up our other paint and using another stencil. Alrighty, so this feels pretty dry now. You can see, like I said, so where the paint was real heavy, I lifted some of it before it was completely dry. So I like the texture and the variation that's happening here. But again, I want to try to layer just a little bit. My next color I'm actually going to use is what's called a Naples Yellow. Again, just a Master's Touch paint. I like how kind of the yellowy orange plays off of the red, and still kind of actually, I'm still keeping with the warm tones, so I don't have to worry about it fighting and whether or not my color palette's going to work. So if you're kind of wondering or you're struggling with some of that, do think about your color choices and what you're using for color. By putting paint over the top, you're actually going to push some of your stencils back. So my next thing would be to try to incorporate some other stencils now onto this. And because these are so large, I'm just contemplating here what I want to do. I'm thinking this might be kind of fun to overlap. I'm going to dry this just a little bit here so that I don't have to worry about what my paint is doing here quick. Now I know I talked just a little bit about color palette. One of the other ways that you can use your stencils too would be to actually just draw the outline. And I know I said I was staying pretty safe by staying within this within the warm color palette, but it might be kind of fun to actually use an opposing color. So instead of actually painting on my stencils, I think I'm going to try using my watercolor pencil here in an opposing color to make that kind of pop. I must not have gotten my paint all the way dry here. other thing that she talked about too was lines in your weights. Oh yeah, I like that. I'm still kind of working in threes, so I can't quite decide. I know I'm going off of my big one, but I think I might actually go back to this big one and just use my ink pen here. And kind of overlap over my stencils that I've put down here. Oh, I forgot my other side of my circle here. And I'm not going to worry about being totally correct and within. I actually like it sometimes your lines, if they're off just a little bit, just so long as you've got your general shape. Oh, my paper's soft here. So I'm actually poking through. If you have that problem, here's a favorite of mine. We're just going to throw some masking tape on that, and we'll keep going here. Ooh, I got another soft spot here. Well, problem solving on the go. So I'm just going to put again. I think that sometimes the fixes are part of the charm of your paper. People will be able to see that I was clearly drawing underneath. I'm not sure about the blue here. I mean, I kind of like what I have going on, but not completely. And some of this is just for play. This is exactly why we're doing this in an art journal. So nothing is permanent. And if you don't like it, you just grab your gesso and go back over the page and do it again. This is actually a Stabilo pencil. I just like how they bleed and run, and certainly when my page is wet here. Versus dry. I like that a little bit better. I still feel like it's a smidge safe. I'm gonna go ahead and dry this, and then we'll see what we've got. So, all right. So I'm a problem solver as I work here. So I think part of my issue is that this one is so dark against the light. So I need to maybe push that one back a little bit because that's where my eye keeps wanting to focus. So I'm actually just going to use a little bit of white paint. And that corner got a little muddy anyway. So we're just going to bring a little bit more white and push that back, which I already like better. All right, so I got this a little drier. I'm still kind of struggling with my composition here just a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of push some of this back a little bit. And because I do have kind of a circular theme going on, I think I'm just going to do kind of one of these and go over the top of things here. Oh yeah, I like that better. Now I'm going to maybe turn my page just to make sure. I'd like to kind of cover this whole corner edge here. Oh yeah, I like that much better. So I'm going to kind of keep going here with my white. Well, that looks much better. I like that much better here. I'm going to dry this here just a little bit, and then I just want to come back in with a few more darks and just do a little more kind of detail work. Alrighty, I think this is nice and dry. A couple of things that I just want to go ahead and do is just still, I'm still a little worried. I'd like it to be just a little bit, kind of dirty this up and kind of bring my focus back to kind of this one in particular. You always have to have a star of the page as well here, so I like that better. Just going to add, this again is just my black ink pen. I just want to come back and put a few details back onto my page here. I don't mind a few of them getting lost, but part of it was to bring a few more details back in. Like, I'm really loving this whole kind of corner section down here. I like it much better with a little bit of this was just like a charcoal. I find that I maybe don't have enough of my peach that's down here in this corner up on the top. If you have the little, I'm just gonna spray with my little Delusions ink, and that was the Pure Sunshine. I like that one, and we'll just kind of, again, part of it, I'm just gonna like tone my paper and kind of let this run. Let that bleed here a little bit. It's a little dirty down here in the corner, but I really like that. So I'm going to dry this one more time, and then I'm going to call this good. All right, I probably actually washed most of it away, but it did tint the page just a little bit. I'm hoping that you guys can kind of see just the little bit of color that it adds back up in here again. I love how it kind of dirtied things up just a little bit and allowed it to, you know, I'd come back in with my pencil and the water kind of helped wash a little bit of that away, so it wasn't quite so you know, sharp and pristine. I really like how this corner is kind of, you can get that the polka dots were there, but that they've kind of blended back. So what I would really encourage is just to play. Now, I'm not totally maybe in love with my circle drawings, but I do like them, and they add a little bit of interest, makes people want to look a little closer, but it's really about layering. And finding different patterns to put together is really, you know, what Jane would tell you out of the book. So have a good time playing. I hope that you've enjoyed watching my process today and certainly enjoyed my book and why I liked it. And I really hope that you've had a good time watching. So thank you so much for today. I will see you later. Thanks. Bye.